Stormy. He will let you hold him eventually. He's purring really loud. Let's see if I can get this.
Oh, I can hear it.
Oh, ASMR.
Oh, now Mocha's trying to come over here, which may not end well.
Oh my god, no way. I have a rat named Mocha.
I love rats so much.
She's very old. She's kind of cranky, but we love her.
Mocha is pretty young. We think she's about 3. She's not going to come any closer to me until Stormy leaves because they don't get along.
It's very funny because my rat, who's old, is also about 3.
Yeah, that's old for a rat.
It's very old for a rat.
I had a rat named Remy, of course, and she was actually my sister's, but I lived with her, and she lived to be about 4.
Oh my goodness.
She was very old.
That's not just senior, that's ancient.
Yeah, but she had a good life. She had a little pineapple hammock that she was obsessed with that she would eat, and then in like 3 minutes it took to replace it with a new one. She would have a one-woman mosh pit in her little enclosure.
Tantrum.
Yeah,
That's adorable.
She was a wonderful woman.
I love that.
So you feeling ready?
I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Well, in that case, hi brats, my name is Ben and I'm trans.
My name is Robin and I'm trans.
And you are listening to Ben and Robin Are Trans, also known as the BRAT Pod. And tonight, tonight we have a very special guest. Their name is Rhian. This is my first time actually meeting Rhian, but back in my Rocky Horror days, Ryan's mom, I don't know if she went to Rocky Horror, but she was in the same social circles as the Rocky Horror people. And I'm pretty sure we met at a silly little horror movie night in a different person's basement. And then I was friends with their mom on Facebook and learned a little bit about Rhian. And I think the reason there's some fun things we're going to talk about today that we'll get to in a bit. Anyway, hi Rhian.
Hi. Shout out to my mom.
I do know your mom. Well, I've already warned you that this question is coming, but how would you describe your gender? And it can be, it can be right now. It can be like the journey. Well, we'll get into the journey.
Right. My gender has never really stayed in one place for very long. I can't really say it's been it's very liquid in a way. But we've kind of settled on the term genderqueer because I very much recognize that, my gender is not going to stay the same. I'm probably going to be experiencing something completely different a few years from now. And I am experiencing something completely different than what I was a few years earlier.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Took a long time to figure that one out.
And then could you share your pronouns for the class, please?
Yes, of course. I am currently using they, she pronouns. That's what I'm most comfortable with. It may change in the future, but that's what I like right now.
That's awesome. Just that way when our friends in our Discord server talk about you, all of them know how to refer to you in a way that doesn't feel shitty.
Yeah, of course. The gossip.
The hot Ryan Goss.
The Ryan Goss.
Oh my god, Ryan Goss.
I like that.
And then do you have a moment of trans joy?
Surprisingly, I know not a lot of people can relate, but I would have to say my coming out experience was very joyous.
Yay.
Specifically because it was hilarious.
Ooh, okay, I gotta get into this.
And I'm not completely sure if my mom actually remembers this, but we went to the Nova Pride event, and I had planned out this whole thing. I drew a big sign, and it was this silly little joke. I was gonna hold it up to my mom, and it was gonna say something like, "My mom just found out that I'm trans." And we got there, and I picked up my sign and I showed her, and she's like, "I already knew that."
I mean, she was hanging out with a bunch of Rocky people. I'm sure it was not a novel concept.
I'm definitely not her first experience with transgender people.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, haven't spent a lot of time with your mom, but she has always been so wonderful to me and seems like such a kind person.
I've
Mhm.
never met anybody who doesn't like her. I'm gonna be honest.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I
she's
mean,
very sweet.
and she has impeccable style.
No, for real. I'm
She
so
wears
jealous.
cool dresses and tights and like with tennis shoes. Like she's one of us.
I'm so jealous of her,
One of
actually.
us.
I need her wardrobe.
Maybe you could borrow some. I don't know.
I've stolen a few.
That's cool.
Mhm.
Well, then I would like to share my moment of trans joy, if that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
We're recording this on January 8th, 2025, and that makes it the 7th anniversary of my coming out story, which, Ryan, you won't know this, so I'll reiterate it. It's already podcast canon. But one of my very best friends, who I love and treasure to this day, asked me, hey, have you ever thought about trying new pronouns? And I came out that day because I needed someone to point out to me that I wasn't just watching all of these trans YouTube videos to be a good ally. You know?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And I shaved my shitty little 21 week on tea mustache for the first time today. So
Let's go.
Boys
the
for
first
shave.
shave.
yeah. Do you have anything to share today, Robin?
I do actually. I just randomly realized, I think yesterday I was telling you that this is like, so when this airs, it's gonna be roughly like the 6-month anniversary of us having this podcast. Actually, like 7 months if you include all our like secret time recording and planning and everything before, but it's like just wild to like actually see that on paper and realize that we've been doing this for like half a year.
And didn't we just get our 1000th listen?
Mm-hmm. It's above that now. So, but yeah, a few days ago.
It's so cool.
That's
Mhm.
amazing.
We're
Bless
just
YouTube.
we're just a couple little queer people who want to bring as many other queer people into I don't know, representation on our tiny platform as possible.
Mhm.
And thank you for being part of it, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Well, in that case, like what has your gender journey been like? Like how long did you know that you weren't cis before you did your fun little poster?
So, fun fact, you see a lot of those stories where they're like, "Oh, I knew since I was a kid," and I just like felt something deep inside of me. I don't think I ever felt different, because I didn't know that's not how you're supposed to feel.
Relatable.
Like
Mhm.
the earliest
I'm
example.
one of those and Ben's the other one of those.
Yeah, yeah. The earliest example I can think of is I didn't know that I was not supposed to stand while I was peeing. So
I used to try that
yeah,
too.
I think the first time I really realized that it wasn't like, the same feelings that everybody else was having was I think I was watching Road to El Dorado. And it kind of something went off and I was like, oh fuck. I think it was like 12-ish.
And then how old were you when you came out to your mom?
I think I came out a few months later after that. I was like 12, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, your mom's awesome, so I can't imagine like having a lot of fear around it. I'm sure there was probably still some.
Oh yeah, I mean you're always going to be nervous about stuff like that. Even if I had known at the time that she was also queer, I still would have been nervous, which I didn't know at the time. Maybe would have helped a little, but that's her business, obviously.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then it's, if you don't want to talk about it, that's cool. Is your birth dad in the picture?
Yeah. He's he took some adjusting, but he's
That happens with dads a lot.
he's very supportive. He's in his own way, Took him a little bit. He liked when I was playing football.
Right.
Like finally I get to cheer on a kid in a football team. And I mean, I don't know how many siblings you have. I know there's some.
He's got the other one for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about like that part of your life you want to share?
I think, as a younger queer person, especially since I did come out at such a young age. I mean, 12 is very, very young for something like that. It again before, the word queer was even a thing to me, I wouldn't have even known that it wasn't normal to experience stuff like that. And
Yeah.
suddenly, like you're getting thrown into middle school and all of these kids are like, I'm going through puberty and I don't know what's going on and my hormones are going out the roof. And you know it was very, because I didn't really belong to either group of these kids that I was around every single day, and I wasn't the only one in middle school who had a trans experience. I did, it's like a magnet, you find all the other kids. Yeah,
An episode that just came out last night is talking about how we always find each other, even if we're not out yet. We
right,
always find
Mhm.
each other.
Yeah.
right. It's I do feel very lucky that I did have a few people in middle school and high school that were experiencing the same thing I was, even if it wasn't in the same way.
Yeah, so
Right.
true.
And now I live with one of them.
Yeah, it's funny because Ben and I went opposite directions, but we still have so much in common.
It's very strange to see how much in common you have with other trans people when the experience is so different.
And like,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how old you are. I'm pretty sure you're a pretty young adult. And like, I'm in my mid 30s, Robin, you're 40s.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And like, even though we're in different generations, it's a lot of the same story beats.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. It
It's
really
I
is.
think I think it's gonna stay, the experience is gonna stay the same for a long while, because unless the education is there, especially in the schooling system, because part of the problem was nobody knew what transgender was. Nobody
Mhm.
knew what the word queer meant unless you were insulting someone, you
Yeah, and
know?
then even then, they didn't really know the implication of the word. They were just using it because they knew it implied something bad.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think that was definitely the biggest problem in school was nobody uh nobody kind of understood what was going on because nobody was teaching it. They don't really teach you about queerness in sex ed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then like, I'm only bringing this up because like you came onto the podcast knowing them that we were going to talk about it.
Hmm.
At what point were you looking into a medical transition?
I think it definitely wasn't immediately, but I unfortunately, you know, hit puberty at a pretty early age, and it was once, you start seeing all these changes, and suddenly you're like, oh, I didn't know that was gonna happen. You get it's uncomfortable at first, and then it's devastating
Hmm.
because
Mhm.
it you know when you're transitioning, you hear a lot of people be like, "Oh, well, these changes are irreversible. You're never gonna be able to go back." But I don't think that a lot of people realize that it's the same with puberty either way. Like any change you make to your body is irreversible. It's not,
100%.
Yeah.
if I want to go through puberty twice, then whose business is it?
Yeah, that's your
Yeah,
choice.
right.
Mhm.
And
But
we're both in puberty right now, so
yeah.
relatable
Yeah.
also.
Oh yeah, it sucks, especially when you're older. I know that.
So
Oh.
how old were you when you first went to like a doctor?
I was um I was 13 when I went on hormone blockers. So, fortunately my parents were very quick to, you know, I think my mom's point of view was, if we stop it now, there's no regret either way, because we can pause this and give everyone time to make a decision, you know.
And did both of your parents have to sign off on it for you to go on blockers?
For the hormone blockers, I believe it was just one parent, surprisingly. There were
Okay.
a lot of things that were surprisingly just one parent, even though both of my parents had at least partial custody over me.
Yeah, because our lawyer friend, we have a lawyer friend named Chip who was on a previous episode, and he was talking about name changes. And he was
Hmm.
saying for like a name change, if it's only one parent, usually you have to have like a court approval that the other parent is like
Hmm.
unsafe to even be involved. So it's
Yeah,
surprising.
yeah. It's unfortunate for a lot of people because there's plenty of minors who get stuck in this situation where, they only live with one parent, but they have a second parent who still has parental rights, and they're not always going to agree, even if they don't really know their kid.
Hmm.
It's unfortunate in a lot of situations, and I think that's where, some parts of the process that do only require one parent are very, very essential.
And I imagine it was life saving.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I there's a picture of me on my mom's Facebook when I had my first um puberty blocker shot, which by the way are horrible. They are intramuscular shots and it's a giant needle
Hmm.
and it sucked. Um it hurts for like a week afterwards, but I'm like wide smile, like toothy grin at the camera. There's like sun shining on my face. It's like comedic at this point. But I was like so happy. I was like, oh my God, this is the first step. I'm so excited. It's so much it's really magical being able to take those first steps.
And this question is going to
Yeah.
seem stupid, but just in case someone who is ignorant is listening,
Hmm.
at any point did you feel like you were being transed by someone else?
Like I was being trans.
Yeah, were they transing you as a kid?
Absolutely not. At several points I felt like people were attempting to untrans me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I was a very independent kid. I was a very independent thinker. Sometimes borderline
Contrarian?
contrarian. Thank you. That's the
Hmm.
word. Um, so I think it would have been very difficult to influence me uh at that age because I did not like being influenced.
It's so cool to actually like talk to you about this because this is all stuff I've
Hmm.
known in my heart, even though I did not know I was trans. So I was 27 years old.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But like,
Yeah.
this is a real story. Is like, this is a
Yeah.
life saving thing for kids who need it.
Uh-huh.
And the
I
doctors are not forcing, especially because it took me 6 years to even get on HRT as an
mhm.
adult. Like, they're
I
not just going to give it to kids.
Yeah, I feel like that's a huge thing that a lot of people don't realize. Like even for me when I was transitioning as a minor, uh, every appointment had like a 6 month waiting list. Like
Hmm.
you had to go to a specialized doctor. I had to get like three different notes from like two different psychiatrists. It's not an easy thing to
Yeah.
like, oh my God, these
As an
people are,
adult too.
yeah, yeah, as an adult too. It's hard to transition, and it's even harder. Imagine trying to convince someone that somebody else is transgender.
Hmm.
Like it's difficult to imagine the process that like thought comes from
Hmm.
because it was so difficult to get access to any of the gender affirming care that I got when I was younger.
And that was with a supportive mom.
Yeah, that was with a
Yeah.
supportive mother. That was with a whole group of support. Like I had like other parents of trans teens who were giving us tips, and I had transgender adults who were telling me, you know, how to get access to these things and what to do if I could get access to these things.
Did you?
And
Go ahead.
and it's just I got so lucky.
Yeah.
Because that is just like
Yeah.
hit after hit after hit
Were
that
any of the psychiatrists you went to people who weren't willing to write the letters? Like, you had to get 2 or 3
mm.
letters. How many psychiatrists did you have to see to get those 2 or 3?
So I had to see one therapist continuously, so um, until further notice, and she was specifically like worked with transgender teens, and that's why I went to see her. And then I had to see another psychiatrist who basically her whole job was to say, okay, this kid is mentally stable enough to decide this. So that was two different therapists, or one different therapist, one psychiatrist, and I believe it was like two different notes for two different doctors at some point, because it's just it gets so confusing because it's like faxing back and forth, and at some point you don't know what's going where.
It really gets my goat. That's such an old person phrase. That you have to be mentally stable enough to decide
Right.
this when if
Yeah.
your gender dysphoria is so severe that it is life-threatening,
Mentally destabilizing.
Yeah.
how are they going to piece apart what's the dysphoria
Mhm.
and what's a non-dysphoria related mental illness?
Mhm. And it's so easy that for them to deny that care, because I remember the whole process got paused for me at some point because someone had brought up this accusation that I was suffering with PTSD at some point, which
And
I'm
even if you
definitely
were,
not.
what would that make you not trans? Like,
Exactly, but it threw out the whole process. Like, it just, everything got put on pause because I had to be evaluated to make sure I didn't have PTSD.
and then did you what was the next step after hormone blockers for your transition?
For me, it was testosterone. After hormone blockers, I was on two different types of hormone blockers, and after the second one, I was 14, when we decided that hormones were the best course of action at that point.
Were you able to get on testosterone at 14?
I was, which is
That's
amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that early.
It's crazy that my doctor even agreed to it. There were definitely a few doctors that were like, "That's a little early," but you know, it. Even my therapist at that point was very insistent on going forward with hormones, but at that age, they don't just like throw you on the highest dose.
Yeah, of
They
course
start
not.
you at a 14-year-old's level of hormones, you know?
Mhm.
It's not like they were just like throwing me into some mosh pit with a bunch of testosterone.
And then this next question is going to kind of like jump a few steps. Do you
Yeah.
regret it?
Absolutely not. I would
Like,
never regret it.
exactly what I thought.
And
oh my God.
yeah, even if I had an inkling of regret, I recognize that my body changes. I recognize that my perception of my body changes. If I were to regret anything, it wouldn't be my transition, because I know that's what I needed.
Yeah, and I mean, you have a very like complex and fluid gender journey. So I imagine like some listeners may be confused that you are a fab went on T and are now like using she pronouns, but like that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely been difficult for me to reintroduce she, her pronouns, just because I feel like there's a big stigma around like people who are considered detransitioners, which I don't consider myself a detransitioner. I just think that I, prefer they, she pronouns right now. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm like, oh, I want my tits back, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because like transition doesn't have to be like a point A to point B. It can be a
Right.
point A to point B to point C.
Mhm.
Point C can have things in common with point A. And that doesn't mean that you're not still like a beautiful trans being of light and power.
Right. Yeah. It's been very euphoric for me, just to, because I've been given the space to evolve in that way. It's not like I've been held strictly to like you said, the point A to point B. I've always had the space to be like, oh, this is how I feel right now.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You're even cooler than I even imagined. This is so fun.
I appreciate that.
Like you're bringing a lot of perspectives that Robin and I have been talking about wanting to bring into the pod since before we released our first episode.
Right.
because like we talk a lot
represent
about
a very narrow perspective.
we talk a lot about how detransition can be defined in a lot of different ways, and like you can, not saying this is your story, but like you can stop taking hormones and still be trans, and some people
Yeah.
consider you detransition, but that doesn't mean you're not trans.
Right.
Yeah.
And like same thing with like changing your pronouns to maybe include ones that are from your assigned gender at birth. That doesn't mean you're not trans. It just means you're on a fun little journey.
Right. Exactly.
It's just a big old bowl of gendery wendery stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be different for everybody. Some people are going to be point A to point B. Like, it's again, I've been so lucky that I've had the space to recognize all of that because not a lot of people can.
I said in the text, you are powerful. Like you
I
are
try
so
my best.
powerful.
I try my best.
Robin, do you have any questions before we move on to the big question?
Big question.
Yeah.
I don't think I do. I just have, before we get into the big question, I just want to be like really clear. Most of our trans listeners already know this, but just for everybody in general, we're going to ask some medical questions of Ryan because they've given us permission to do so. Please don't go around just asking trans people in your lives, like, what surgeries did you get and everything? Like, very like base level, not cool. Don't do that. But thank you so much for allowing us to have this conversation with you because we both think it's a really important one to have.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I want to make it clear. Before Ryan even agreed to come on the show, I was like, you don't have to share what you don't want to, but I do want to ask you about this. Is that cool?
Right.
Yeah.
So that being said, you just hinted at it that you don't want your tits back. How old were you when you had top surgery, Ryan?
I was 16.
Which is incredible.
It is incredible, but that was the literal minimum age requirement to get top surgery.
Yeah, like you could not have been any younger.
Yes, they would not have let me if I was any younger than 16 years old.
And like, what was that like? Like, I don't even know what to ask because I've never had a surgery like that. I've had like ones required by like symptoms that were like a cyst and like my tonsils, but like never something that was for gender dysphoria before.
It is so disorienting, the whole process, because like there's all this excitement, but you can't really do anything about it because you have to deal with doctors. And I didn't even deal with the doctors. It was my parents making the appointments, They were making all these appointments and consultations. And I think, that is wonderful for me because yes, I was stressed, but I was not as stressed as my parents were about it.
Yeah.
So I got to enjoy a lot of the good parts about top surgery. And I would hope that my parents enjoyed it with me. I know, shout out to my poor mom again, who just got full view of my chest in the consultation room without asking.
I mean, she's pretty cool. I can't imagine her having any regrets about it.
Yeah. But shout out to her. It was a little embarrassing.
Yeah.
But the medical journey itself with top surgery was such and going back to one of the topics earlier, the with one parent signing off on something, you would not believe that top surgery is one of those.
Really?
You only need one parent for that.
That's wild.
Yeah. Like I remember, I don't even think we told my dad until like a week before the surgery. Like we kind of kept it a little bit of a surprise.
And there was still shared custody at that point.
Yeah, it was still shared custody. He wasn't oppositional, but he wasn't exactly supportive of it. He is now, but he's very protective at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I was wondering if like, as long as I've known your mom, I think she's been with your stepdad. I don't know if you use that term for him or not. Some people don't.
Yeah, I mean,
but like,
call him Rob most of the time.
Yeah. Do you want us to bleep out his first name, or do you want to keep that in?
I would ask him.
Yeah.
I'm not
I'll message your
completely
mom.
sure. Yeah.
Just to be sure, because when I asked your mom if you'd be cool with this, she was very clear that this was your story to share. So I want to like give her that same.
Yeah.
And Rob.
Yeah.
Sorry if you have to edit that out twice.
How dare.
And I almost wonder if they're like, well, there's 2 parents in that household that are supportive, so that's good. But like, they obviously wouldn't have had him sign off on it.
Yeah. I mean, it is great having a supportive mother and father figure at the time. Again, all of this is not saying that my dad wasn't ever supportive of me. He was supportive in his own way. I genuinely believe he just didn't really understand what was happening.
Yeah.
He was probably scared too.
I think he was grieving
Mm.
because, the biggest reminder that I try to give myself is that he has 3 sons. He has 3 children, 2 of which being my brothers, and it's been on and off. I've been like his child, his son. He doesn't even know. He's like, but I think he really did grieve that because he only had 1 daughter, which I think is fine. He's allowed to have space for that.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like, parents, they should not frame it as that they're grieving like a child, but they're grieving what they expected life for that child to be.
He was grieving the experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't grieving me. He was grieving the experiences. Like he's, talking about like, oh, I'll never get to walk someone down the aisle.
Maybe.
What if I still want to walk down the aisle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why can't you be like fabulous and dramatic and have your moment?
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
So yeah, 16.
16.
And 14 for hormones. That is still breaking my brain.
Yeah.
Like, that is really cool. My cats are being silly.
It's generally like, yeah, I feel like I haven't talked about it much because there is a little bit of a stigma around transitioning that early. So I mean, it feels good to talk about it, and I'm always here for the education. Like I want people to know what that process was actually like.
Yeah, and I hope you don't feel like weird about this conversation. Like, we try to be very supportive and open.
Oh, absolutely not. I could never feel weird. I feel like if you put me in a room, I'm probably the weirdest person there.
Well, all 3 of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So weird.
Our podcast bio is a silly little guy and a silly little gal.
I know. I was reading it. I
Yeah.
thought it was cute. I love that.
It's very real. You should see our D&D episode. That gets real weird.
Oh my gosh, I literally was like watching like the first few minutes of that. I was like, wait, I don't want to spoil all of this for myself. I'll watch it after.
You're so sweet. You're amazing. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Why do my cats need to run up and down the stairs right now? I'll take that again. Is there anything else that you want to talk about the top surgery experience?
I feel like my top surgery experience wasn't much different besides like the process of getting a consultation and getting approved for it. It's still the same surgery. Personally I had the double incisions, which is the most common top surgery that you can get. So it would be the same experience that most adult people would go through during top surgery. But it was it was like almost like a dream because, well, one, I could not sleep. I was like up for a full like 30 hours beforehand. Yeah. I was so excited. I'm like, oh my God.
It's like still believing in Santa and thinking he's coming.
Exactly. But I think my favorite part about top surgery, and I love telling this story, is I had the theme song from Meatballs stuck in my head for like the entire night and the entire morning before my surgery. And they took me in and we're getting ready, and I've got like the needle in my arm, like they're about to administer anesthesia, and like I'm talking to the nurse and I'm like, have you ever seen Meatballs? And I swear to God, I was out as soon as I said that. Like I was out like a light.
So you never got to
Just like,
find
I need
out.
closure on that story.
I need to know. That was my favorite part.
That reminds me of when I got my tonsils out. I was like 7, and I was just really excited to get it over with. And like the nurse, it's slightly adjacent. It just reminded me of it. The nurse came in and saw me being so hype, and they're like, "Oh, they already brought in the anti-anxiety meds." And my parents were like, "What anti-anxiety meds?" And I was just like, "I'm hyped to get this over with."
Let me out of here.
I've never been scared of surgery.
No, really, that's how it should be. It's like, finally.
Yeah, someday maybe I'll get my double incision, because I will have to have double incision. And for anyone listening, if you have very small amounts of tissue, they can do something called keyhole, or I think it's called UP or PU or something. Like it's like a line down the middle instead. But double incision is they basically cut up here, they cut down here, and they sew it together at the bottom where your under your pecs would be.
Which, fun fact, I did not know that was how it worked. I thought it was one line at the bottom. I didn't know that they were literally cutting everything off. And that scared me so much when I found out.
It's amazing how much you can find out about procedures you've never had and how little you can know about procedures you're having.
Exactly. Yeah. I genuinely I was under the impression that I was like getting liposuction and that was it.
I mean,
that would fix everything.
It's hard to know what they're going to do with all that skin when you've never had to think about it. But like, just because you didn't necessarily understand the process does not mean you didn't know what was right for you and your body and your life.
Yeah, it would be like if I wanted to deny like a heart surgery because I don't know how they perform a double bypass or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how surgery is done. I just know that you get surgery sometimes.
Yep.
So what was your journey like leading to the decision to get top surgery?
It was very I don't want to say complicated, but it was not like a straight path. It wasn't like I came out and my parents were like, "Yippee, we accept you. Let's go get hormones and top surgery." When you're that young, it's kind of a journey for everybody and not just yourself, unfortunately. And some people handled it better than other people. That's okay. Not everybody's gonna take it the same way. But I would like to say it was mostly positive, thanks to my parents. There were ups and downs, but I think I had a great experience, and I think that my top surgery experience especially was amazing because it was basically I hit 16 and my doctors and my parents are like, "Oh, you're 16 now. Do you want to get top surgery?" And at that point you're like, "Yes." I have been waiting so long, even though it hasn't been that long. At that point, I had been out of the closet for 4 years, and I have met people who have waited decades,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, when you're 16, 4 years is 1/4 of your entire life, and like barely more than half of your living memory.
Yeah, so it felt like a long time. Yeah, it's even weirder to think it's been longer than that since I had top surgery. Because
I have known your mom a while, haven't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
I forget how much time has passed since I did Rocky Horror in like 2010.
I can generally remember the first few mentions of you. She talks a lot. She talks a lot about her friends. We love it.
I talk a lot about everybody too. All of my friends know about everyone.
She's a gossip girl.
Yeah, and she's cute and wonderful.
Oh yeah.
And she
I
supported the
could
shit out of you.
yeah, I could talk about my mom forever and how amazingly patient she is with me.
That's a good mom right there. Not everyone is so
Yeah.
lucky, and you won the lottery.
I did. I am
Mhm.
literally 1 in a billion probably.
That's
Love
fun.
her. Shout out.
Yeah. Shout out Ryan's mom.
Shout out my mom.
um, how's life for you now?
I would say life is going wonderfully. It's mostly what you would expect the average 21-year-old, you know. I have an apartment. I'm trying wine for the first time. Um, but no, it's definitely been a transition period for me. These past what, you know, 2 or 3 years because especially coming into adulthood, I left a relationship I had been in for like 7 years, and you know that was a big transition for me, and I'm very much getting used to responsibility and finding time for myself among all of that, because I still want the space that, was given to me when I needed it. And it's been very a good learning experience because now as an adult I'm able to find space for myself, and I'm able to recognize who's going to give me space. Like I have a wonderful, amazing supportive partner who I feel like somehow knows exactly what he's doing all the time. It's crazy.
And at
But
least one rat named Mocha.
at least one rat named Mocha. She has two more sisters, but they're beautiful and I love them. The other ones are babies, but Mocha's my favorite. Don't tell the other ones.
Could you maybe send me a picture
I would love to send you a
to put in the
picture.
episode?
Yes, of
Mhm.
course. I'm warning you, they all look so stupid.
I love stupid animals. All of
They,
mine are stupid. Well,
they're
except
really
Mocha.
dumb.
Mocha's the smartest, most prettiest, most perfect one.
Mhm. Too perfect.
My Mocha's old and cranky.
Mine's young and cranky. She likes hissing at the other two, but they're rude and try to steal her dinner.
We love that for her.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anything else you want to get into?
I think, I think if I'm gonna say anything, I think that the whole takeaway I want is that, you know, everybody needs a little space for growth sometimes, and this is something I try to I'm not running around like pushing it on people, but I try to live that so that other people can um use me by example. You know,
Mhm.
everyone needs space. You're not going to grow if you don't have any space. It's going to rain sometimes, but that's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And things are hard, but it's not going to be hard forever. Eventually it's going to be great.
And things can be hard, but they can still be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. All the cheesy Disney stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
Robin, do you have any more questions?
Hmm. I
So we can
don't.
let Ryan enjoy their very, very few instances of a night off.
I know.
Uh, I don't have any other questions in mind,
Hmm.
but if you have anything just in general, like while you have this platform that you really want to get out there, like please let us
Yeah,
know.
anything you want to shout out, like any creators you really like, any like trans cool people that you want people to go subscribe to,
Um,
or you?
Unfortunately, I don't have any accounts anymore, but there is um, one friend who I would love to shout out, um, who's going to be at New York Fashion Week uh,
Ooh.
through their brand Dyke Mint.
Like
Um,
Dyke and then Breath Mint?
yes,
Okay.
one word, Dyke Mint.
Okay.
But they make beautiful, amazing, slow fashion, sustainable clothing. And I think everybody should check them out because I love them so much.
I want to check them out right now.
And
Yeah.
they're completely queer run, so
Hmm.
That is so
everything
cool.
everything they do is amazing.
We might have to reach out to your friend who runs Dykement and see if
You
they want to
should.
talk about slow fashion. We could talk about how I love to crochet together.
You would absolutely. They would love you. They're so sweet, I promise.
Oh, you're also very sweet, so I guess
I
it's all sweet people
Yeah,
hanging out together.
I know.
That's just the vibes.
Ugh, I feel emotional.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm on my man period. I'm sorry.
no, real. You're synced. It's okay.
Hence the heating pad in my lap.
Yeah, it's okay. Me too.
All right, shall we close out?
We shall.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for telling us about transitioning as a child and like having a wonderful gender fluid journey and cool mom and
Yeah.
cool dad and stepdad. This has been the Brat Pod. I'm Ben and I'm trans.
I'm Robin and I'm trans.
And you've been listening to Ben and Robin Are Trans. Join us on our Discord, share your joy, comment your joy on the YouTube. Goodbye.
Bye.
What up, bitches?
Welcome to the Brad Experience. That's what the podcast is going to be in, like in a couple months.
Yeah. We're gonna start like doing our boner pill ads,
Yes.
and
we could do fake boner ads.
just wait.
This podcast is brought to you by boners.
Boners really lift us up where we belong.
All we need is boners. Excellent pre-roll.
Mhm.